Welcome to the Blow Your Mind podcast. If you're trying to figure out who you are, where you're headed, or how to trust yourself in the middle of it all, this show is for you. I'm Erika. I grew up in a trailer park on food stamps, and I went on to build a multi-8-figure award-winning company without a safety net and without pretending it was easy. I'm now a CEO, a best-selling author, and a philanthropist. And what I've learned is this: real confidence isn't a feeling. It's self-trust built through evidence. This is a place for real conversations. You'll hear from me and occasionally my husband, Chris, as we talk honestly about real life and the standards and decisions that separate talk from results. Let's blow your mind. I was standing there in the dead of winter, looking at my book in the Barnes & Noble window on Fifth Avenue. What is life? How could this be? It was a moment I'll remember for the rest of my life. It was also a moment where I was terrified. And while the world might think I must have been on cloud nine, I must have been celebrating every single day since I found out that it was there and that it was going to be there for 2 whole weeks. And everyone, on Fifth Avenue in New York City, what are we talking about? And all I could feel was that sneaky little thing called imposter syndrome. Welcome to the Blow Your Mind podcast. I am so excited to be talking about the third part of my framework today, which is evidence. If you haven't listened to the last 2 episodes, I would say please push pause, go back and listen to identity and then systems, because once you do those 2 things, then you get here. And this is where the really cool part happens. When you decide who you want to be in the world, and then you put in proper systems and habits and standards that hold you to that person, you actually get to become them. And this really cool thing happens. You start to build proof, what I call evidence. Evidence is objective. It is not bad or good. It is just, did it or did it not happen? What were the outcomes that happened because you were there? What are the outcomes of the effort that you were out doing in the world? All of that is evidence. And I believe it's so important to track it, to name it, to celebrate it, to sit in it, to own the evidence that you've created. That moment when I saw my book in the Barnes & Noble window, I just had this moment of if you know me at all and you've seen any of my posts, you'll see I always have these brightly colored shoes on. And I'm really proud of them, actually. They're Manolos. Standing in front of that bookstore, walking in my red dress with my Manolos on, which are sparkly, and they're not cheap. I'm not going to lie, right? I work really hard to get those shoes, but it was such an interesting feeling to be standing there in shoes I've wanted forever in New York City, actually looking at the proof of my book. My family's photo that used to hang on top of my fireplace is actually on a book in the Barnes & Noble window. And all I felt was, does it belong there? What if people buy it and read it and are like, oh my God, why is this even in the bookstore? Why is this in the window? Why does it deserve to be here? And it's sitting there next to another book that was called The Generous Leader. And I was like, what? But their book belongs, but does mine belong? Am I really an author? It's that sneaky thing, imposter syndrome, that it's that voice inside your head that says, who am I to want all of this, to dream this big, to think that this is possible for me? It's that voice that says, if you all really knew me, would you think that my success was an accident? Would you actually think that I was smart, capable, worthy, deserving enough of all of this? Imposter syndrome is such a sneaky thing because it comes up all of the time. And, when I shared, I had found out 2 weeks prior to that day where I actually got to see it myself. And I had talked about this earlier where everybody thought I was on cloud nine. I got all of the text messages, all of the celebrations. I had hundreds of comments on the actual photo that the store had sent me before I actually made it out to New York. And that day felt a little bit unreal and surreal. But the next day, I had actually been on a client trip. And so I was alone in my hotel room. And I remember I was just crying. I was in tears and I was scared. And it didn't feel like I thought it was going to feel. And I think that is that imposter syndrome, which goes back to the identity that I talked about 2 episodes ago about why it's so important for us to not believe what we were taught about ourselves and to really decide who we are and live up to that. And through our systems and through the consistency and through disciplined action, prove to yourself that you are worthy and that you've always been worthy. And the evidence to me, this third part of the framework, evidence, it's not about bragging. It's really about curating all of the evidence, all of the proof that you can point to say, like, yeah, I did those things. This is real. And the reason I talk about all of my success and all of the things that I have done and the fact that we're a multi-8-figure company, the fact that I'm a best-selling author, the fact that I do get to be on TV quite often. And that feels really good that somebody wants to hear my voice, my story, my mission. And that's not anything other than to just point to evidence that's really real that doesn't say like results are not the thing that make you worthy. That's not what evidence is. I would even say that like the impact that you make out in the world is also not the thing that makes you worthy. I believe evidence and proof is truly the antidote to imposter syndrome, because every time that voice sneaks up in me and says like, do you really deserve this? Is this really real? Are you capable of doing that? I'm like, yeah, I did that. And I point to that. And I point to that. And I've done these things out in the world. And it is not subjective. It is just the truth. It is evidence. It's the reality of the situation. And that's a big deal, because then it starts to rewire your brain and it makes it so that you're not focusing on the results, the impact, all of the things. All of those things are not the things that make you worthy. It just makes it impossible for your brain to ignore the worthiness that has always been there, that has always been inside of you. That's the really cool thing about evidence. And in my framework, when I talk to university students, I tell them about how since I was 21, I've had this folder in my inbox called You Are Awesome. It's literally called that. I still have this folder. And in it, I have always saved like emails that I've received from people that says, because of you, this happened. So it's not just like great job emails. It's like the outcome emails, the results emails. And I always put them into that folder. And the reason that I loved having my You're Awesome folder is because when I was looking for a new job, I had all of the proof of the things that I had done in the world that like, this is why I'm capable. Because it's so interesting when you got to sit down and like actually write your resume, you're like, wait a second, like what are all the things I did in the last year? Or when you're up for a promotion or when you're about to get a review at your company. It's so interesting how our brains forget all of the amazing things that we have done. And so why aren't we tracking it? Why aren't we creating our own evidence folder? Why don't we put those things in an easily accessible place so that we can actually then tell the truth about the impact that we've had? All of the amazing things that have happened because you have been there. And so I have my You're Awesome folder in my Outlook email, which, yeah, I still have it. And as I've become a CEO and a founder, and as I've started to do things with Tiny Superheroes, I have a separate one on my Tiny Superheroes email. It's become more and more about the things that my team has done, that my company has done, the patients that we've impacted, but it just still matters to track all of those things. And that's what I do professionally, but also personally, I have what I call my Pick Me Up folder. And that is just an album in my phone that's called You Are Loved. And it is screenshots. It's screenshots of text messages that I've gotten from my friends that are just like, hey girl, just thinking about you today and I love you. And I'm like, oh my God, like it means something to me. It is DMs of people who have sent me notes. I got a DM one time from a psychiatrist, and he and his husband had just lost their dog. And he had said, I would just want to thank you for the work that you're doing out in the world to normalize the loss of an animal, but also like to really push for pet bereavement leave to be a thing. Because here I am, a psychiatrist, and I'm ashamed to talk about it at work, which was really surprising to me, right? Because here's somebody who is in the mental health care space, and they're afraid to go to work and just tell the truth that a part of their family has just passed away and they need some time off so they can show up as their best self, so they can be there for their patients. And so that's one that I was really proud to screenshot and save and put into my You Are Loved folder. But I also, these types of screenshots, they're not for anyone else. They're just for you, so that you can go back and know the impact that you've already made. There are people that love you and care about you, because sometimes that imposter syndrome really sneaks up on you, and the lies and the stories that you believe about yourself can feel really loud. They can feel really true. You can feel really alone. And sometimes we just need to get out of our own head and really see the truth of who we really are. And that only comes when you build evidence, when you have a place when you can go look, when you're in those moments of panic, when you're in those moments of loneliness, when you're in those moments of like, should I keep going? Is the work that I'm doing, does it matter? And so for me, that pick me up folder, I mean, I have, if you look at it now, it's really funny because it's still like the iPhone text messages that were like those weird bubbles, like years ago, all the way to the ones that are now. And sometimes I go back and I go years back and I look at that album and I'm like, wow, some of these messages that I've saved, it took me back to where I was in that moment. And I get to realize how far I've come and who I am now. And what are the problems that I'm worried about today? And what are the things that I care about today? And how big has my life gotten today? And that also reminds me, so as I'm dealing with things today, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm only building my capacity to hold even more. And I'm going to be able to handle even more. And who will I be in 5 years from now, right? Because I still have my identity of who I want to be. And I'm still building my systems to get me to be that girl. And I'm going to keep building my evidence to go back and look at, to remind me that I am already in motion, that I am not behind, that I am loved by people who care about me, and even strangers I've never even met. There's the connection. That is the thing that is beautiful about social media. I have so many connections around the world of people I've never met, but man, they are there for me and I'm there for them. And that's a beautiful thing. And so I want to say to you, as the mind blown moment, is that I truly believe that the antidote to imposter syndrome is evidence. And I believe that the only way that we can combat imposter syndrome is to have a place that you can point to say, I really did all of those things. And the only way to do that is to track it. And so I'm hoping that my systems of my You're Awesome folder or your Pick Me Up folder, that those things work for you. And the challenge that I have for you this week is build one. Start building your You're Awesome folder or your Pick Me Up folder, whichever one makes more sense to you. Or tell me about a way that you're capturing and tracking your evidence. I'm excited to learn from you too, and to inspire each other of how do we all track the amazing things that we are doing. And I want to leave you on today's episode, not just inspired, but with your own proof. And so I want you to think about someone you could text that you could just say like, hey, this might be a weird text, but can you just share with me like a moment when you saw me show up in a way that like really impressed you, or in something that stayed with you about me, or where, I don't know, you're going to be surprised by what people share with you that you don't even remember happening. But I want you to text someone and I want you to ask them. And when they text you back, I want you to screenshot it, and I want it to be evidence document number 1 in your Pick Me Up folder, because I want you to see that you're not behind. That there are already so many people who care about you, who you've impacted already with the things that you do, with the love that you put out in the world, with the light that is inside of you, that you shine so brightly. And sometimes we just don't even see our own lights. And I wanted to reflect back on you by seeing the response that you get. And then as you move forward, keep screenshotting, keep saving it, keep building your evidence folder. And DM me, tag me. Once you get so many, it's going to be a little collage, so you don't even have to share what's actually in them. But I would love to see your evidence folders start to build up. And so DM me, tag me, share it with somebody else. And I just can't wait to see you all blow your own minds. Here we go. I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Blow Your Mind podcast. If something you heard today stayed with you, that's your cue. Apply one idea. Keep one promise to yourself this week, because that's how you blow your mind. If this helped you build proof, shift your identity, or have an aha moment, share your receipts on Instagram and tag me at Erika_Sinner. Leave a review wherever you're listening so more people can find this work and blow their minds too. I'll see you next time.